It is officially 2025. And being 2025, when the new year hit, the very first thing I did was I checked out to make sure that my AEW Dynamite and Collision can be found on Max. And I watched AEW Dynamite recently on Max, just to say I did. And I also looked into Netflix. And those in the United States may only just be getting Monday Night Raw, but if you live outside the United States or have a VPN like myself, you get a little sneak peek of what else Netflix can offer in the WWE world. I watched a little bit of an old WrestleMania on Netflix and checked it out. And I will say, for the people outside the United States, the WWE Network, I imagine, was better. As somebody like myself here, who has the non-commercial version of Peacock, when I go to watch old wrestling, I'll probably stick to Peacock. Because, yes, Netflix does have a lot of those things, but it is a very scaled-down version of them. You're not getting, like, the full WWE Network. And even on Peacock, you don't even get that, right? We lost a little bit going on Peacock, and it seems like you lose a little bit more going to Netflix. As it just has to fit more into into an already existing platform, making it obviously difficult to do. So I'm not necessarily jealous of anybody, because I do have the options of both. And if I'm going to watch In Your House 4 or an old, Saturday night's main event, I'm going to probably go to the Peacock and do that for the time being. I did learn something, actually. We talked about recently WWE Network being dead, and it is not, actually. So in the UK and Canada, WWE is dead now. So finding out the pay-per-views, PLEs, if you will, in France, Germany, Belgium, and Italy, all places where WWE's bringing television shows this year, they still got the WWE Network. So even though, I was under the impression that it was going to be dead, like around the world dead, it's actually not. It's just dead in the other bigger countries, meaning the United States killed it first, but then UK and Canada and stuff like that had it, and then they now don't have it. But hey, there's still some countries that do have it. So get your VPNs out, folks, and say that you're in Paris, and you can still watch the WWE Network. I noticed, and I don't know if you notice this, Brandon. Do you ever watch like whether it be pay-per-views, whether they're overseas or like house shows? You can actually still see like the WWE Network on the skirt, or like a truck that says WWE Network. So it technically, quote unquote, still exists. But WWE is moving all of their programming, most of the world, to Netflix. I believe it doesn't actually start until Monday Night Raw, meaning that this upcoming SmackDown is not going to be on Netflix. I could be wrong. But either way, WWE is putting all their chips in for not just the United States, but all the major markets into Netflix and Monday Night Raw. This upcoming Monday from the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California, WWE's first trip to the brand new arena in Los Angeles, and it's a WrestleMania-esque show. Now, let me ask you this, Brandon. Triple H has said it many times in 2024, and he's saying it now. Do you, good show or not good show, do you expect to see something you've never seen before, as Triple H has just been really beating that home of this, something like you've never seen before? What are your, expectations for Raw, not just this week, but in general on Netflix?
I mean, we are going to see something we've never seen before, and that's wrestling on Netflix, so that's kind of cool. I mean, that's, from that aspect, technically speaking, maybe that's the newness he's talking about. I don't think we're going to see anything that's groundbreaking, any new matches, any new debuts, things like that. I think it's going to be like essentially a pay-per-view or premium live event. It's going to be a PLE, for my money, and I'm looking forward to
the first one.
Yeah. This first Raw. Yes. I think it's gonna.
Not everyone.
No. I think it's gonna be I think as time goes on, it'll be back to your normal Raws. Like, it's still a good show and quality entertainment. But I think, especially for January 6th coming up here in the coming days, it's going to be almost like a PLE, where it's going to be just they're going to pull out all the stops to make sure they start their new partnership with Netflix with a bang. We're going to see a lot of who's are going to be there. It's going to be a jam-packed show. I'm looking forward to it as somebody who has Netflix, so I'm excited, where I don't have to worry about watching it on the USA Network, because I'm a typical person these days where I don't have old school cable. I use streaming apps and whatnot. So, I don't have you have to have a certain provider for USA Network, and I don't. So I used to watch them on Hulu, or I'd watch them on my. I used to go to my parents and watch it on Verizon FiOS and whatnot, and Spectrum, because I don't have cable. I use streaming stuff. So having it on Netflix is going to be a beautiful thing. I'm looking forward to January 6th.
I will say, Monday Night Raw is the signature show that was on the USA Network, and outside of 5 years, when it was on TNN and Spike TV,
Yep.
In the United States, it's been mostly on the USA Network. And while SmackDown's going to remain on the USA Network, so we won't do our big, farewell to the USA Network show, Monday Night Raw obviously was a staple there. And when SmackDown eventually, because like all things, right, they all leave, they all move on, and SmackDown is not as synonymous with USA as Raw is, so I can imagine someday that'll find a new home. And when SmackDown does find a new home and WWE is no longer on the USA Network, that will be a huge deal, because the USA Network, not just for Raw, not just for SmackDown, but just the WWE in general, goes back a very long, almost to the start of cable television in general. I have a poster that is framed in my house for a WWE show from 1982 with Jesse the Body Ventura as one of the marquee matches, I think, against Adrian Adonis. It was at the War Memorial in Syracuse. Like I said, it's a framed match card from that event in 1982. It wasn't even advertised as WWF Wrestling, because I don't know if that was a cachet name to get you in the arena, just Pro Wrestling Live kind of thing. But in the subtext below, it does say, catch Pro Wrestling on the USA Cable Network Saturdays at 6 p.m. And, so primetime wrestling, superstars of wrestling, like all those major shows go back to, the USA Network and pro wrestling, WWE specifically, are very hand in hand. And while Monday Night Raw is a big step, because that was the big, like I said, flagship show of that channel, once SmackDown leaves the USA Network, I think we'll probably have a thing here to probably have to talk about, because that will be a huge changeover. And sorry to the USA Network in advance, but you are, to me, pro wrestling. What I mean by that is, once pro wrestling is not on the USA Network anymore, I don't think, if the USA, it's like BET or VH1. If you told me that they don't exist today, I won't. I would say I agree with whatever you're saying, because I have no idea. I have no idea if VH1 is currently there. I know a lot about what it was. I don't even know if it's still there. I know MTV, I think, is still there because they play it at my gym. But they'll be like the USA Network. Once it doesn't have wrestling on it anymore, I will know nothing about the USA Network. It could literally just disappear in the middle of the night, and it'd be like it never was there. Right?
Well,
I'll never even notice.
It's traditional cable. Traditional cable, in itself, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, it's like, that's the direction it's going. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually maybe Netflix kind of corners the market, so to speak, and has both the Raw property and the SmackDown property on their platform. Which I'm kind of interested to see what happens with NXT as well, because obviously NXT is doing the CW thing, which is cool because, for me, I do have an antenna, so like I can watch on my antenna every week, every Tuesday. I can watch NXT. Or if it's for folks that don't, they don't have an antenna, you can watch on the CW, I think, the next day, and watch it, watch the product that way. So I'm curious to see if eventually Netflix buys up all the WWE property. That's going to be interesting.
That's why the Netflix and people in the United States, Raw is a big deal going to Netflix, and it's a big deal going to Netflix not because it's Netflix, because to be honest with you, Netflix isn't a lot of homes in the United States, but it still, to me, is actually, I don't want to say a step down, but it is kind of a step down from traditional television, because you have to be a subscriber, you have to be signed in. You're not just going to be sitting at a bar and it's going to show up on the screen. It's not going to show up in your hotel rooms anymore or anything like that.
Not necessarily. If you go to like local pubs and
if they put it on specifically, I'm saying flipping through the channels. I stay at hotels every so often, right? And I can flip through the channels and find Monday Night Raw. That's not going to be the case anymore. But I think the major thing is that WWE's kind of downplaying. What makes this actually the biggest deal is the international side of things, is the Raw, SmackDown, NXT all kind of being in one home to everyone around the world, and now Raw essentially being a Netflix to a larger group of people. We're talking Canada, UK, and some other countries out there. So now it's more of a shared thing. Overall, I think it's kind of a step down. Going from television to streaming isn't like isn't like going the other direction.
See, I have to disagree with you because I think streaming is obviously the current. It's also the future. I think traditional cable is going to be in the next, I'd say in the next 15 years, it's going to be a thing of the past because as those older generations of people, they go to the other side, so to speak. You're going to have folks like myself and yourself. As we get older, we know how to use the technology. We're accustomed to these apps, and I think you're going to get to a point where the majority or all of society will be using this, as part of their daily life. So for me, I think it's a step up. I think it's a visionary move by WWE to do this ahead of time because let's be honest, you said it yourself. If certain products aren't going to be on USA Network, why would I watch it? Like for me personally, I watched, I watched the Netflixes of the world, the Paramount Pluses, you have HBO Max, like that's the future. Like that's where it's going.
I definitely agree that's the future. Currently, now I think that's why I said the international part of this is the big thing because internationally they'll be reaching places maybe that they had trouble reaching before. But in the United States, I would imagine that the USA Network is probably in more homes than Netflix is just in the United States alone currently. Now, obviously, the future things will change.
You really think so? I don't think a lot of people have cable boxes anymore, to be honest. I mean, I don't know too many people that, in my circle and, friends of mine, I don't think a lot of people have boxes outside of, like, I think my cousin, I was at his house this week. He's got a box, and then my parents, but everybody else I know, they don't even have any of that stuff anymore.
I would think that a big jump, and I'm always the traditionalist in the sense of saying that like the move to a major network is like USA Network. I get it, it's cable television, right? It's not as big, but like if they were moving to like NBC for Monday Night Raw or to CBS or ABC or Fox, one of the major networks, I would say that would be as big as you can get. Netflix, I think they're pulling out all the stops for this show the same way they'd be pulling all the stops out if they were going to be on HBO Max or if they were going to be on Hulu or they were going to be on something else because you're moving to a new platform. We saw them do it when they moved to Fox. We saw them do it when they moved back to the USA Network. We see them move whenever they move anywhere. The idea is to make a big splash where you're going because wherever you're going paid a lot of money for you to be there. So you got to make a big splash. So to be honest with you, moving to Netflix, I don't foresee Triple H can hype it up all he likes, and he does that for every pay-per-view and all this other stuff. Yes, I imagine this Raw is going to be an amazing off-the-charts Raw. It's going to be like when Raw went to 3 hours for the first time, and The Undertaker and Edge and John Cena, they were all there. Or Raw moved back to the USA Network for the first time, or that Fox picked up SmackDown for the first time. It's going to be just like that. But once we move on to week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to look like Raw again. And I will say you might be right? It might be who has more, USA Network in the house or Netflix in the house. But there is something to be said for being able to just flip through the channels because now you have to specifically find something. There is a reason why more people on a weekly basis watch Monday Night Raw than watch WrestleMania because you have access to it. Like, most people I know who don't watch wrestling don't stumble upon WrestleMania because you have to click on it. You have to go find it. And now Raw every single week is going to be just like that.
Here's the thing. If you have Netflix, though, and I do, I'm a subscriber to Netflix. I have been for a long time. And, what I've noticed with Netflix, they're hyping it up pretty big, too, because right on their home screen, it's not like, obviously you can do you can do reminders and all that stuff, but it popped up as it was getting closer, it says coming soon, and it has this big thing of Raw. I will say though, to your point, to find the other stuff that they just brought in as of January 1st, you do have to go to the search bar. I will give you that, the search bar, and type in WWE if you want to find kind of the best ofs and things like that. I'll give you that, but I think what they're doing is, especially when it's a live televised event or it's something that's fresh and new or it's hot, they're going to put it right in your face as soon as you log into Netflix.
I will say when it comes to things like major sports, let's say like the Super Bowl, that's always the major example. I will say that the Super Bowl, once the Super Bowl is off regular television, like the traditional terrestrial cable television dials we're used to, that is when it's over with. Until then, regular television, I guess, is going to be king. Once the Super Bowl leaves, that's when it's over.
Don't be surprised, though. Don't be surprised if Netflix or another one of these other companies says, you know what, I'm going to open up the entire bank account and I want the Super Bowl on my platform. And I think I wouldn't be
And that would be
surprised that
interesting.
happens
That
in the
would
next
be interesting
decade.
because we know that things like the Super Bowl change channels every single year. So, I mean, I feel like Netflix could bid on it just like ABC or NBC or one of those channels do. So it would be interesting.
Technically speaking, though, I might be wrong on this because I obviously when I watch the Super Bowl, I just watch it on CBS
Regular
or
television,
Fox.
yes.
But I believe you can watch it if say it was on NBC or CBS. I
You can watch
think
it
you
on
can watch it on
Peacock.
Peacock, right? And then
Yes.
Paramount Plus, right?
Yeah. I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to see because I didn't watch much of the Super Bowl, but I was flipping back and forth. I watched like the first half of the Super Bowl last year. I watched both the Nickelodeon version and I watched the regular version. And I remember I think I watched it via Paramount Plus when I
That's
was
what I
watching
thought.
it.
Yeah.
So and so yes, there those are options, right?
And
But I guess
don't forget though that also could be a sample to the NFL saying, okay, how many of these people are watching on Peacock, for example, or Paramount Plus versus cable? Because they're like the normal like Spectrum and whatnot. Like I'm sure they have the data that can show you like how many people are streaming it versus using cable. And I feel like if those numbers continue to grow, I feel like Netflix might have a shot down the line.
see, AEW's got a good system going right now, and I'm not saying it's the best or anything because obviously AEW gets enough crap thrown on it. But the
Right.
fact that obviously they're still on TBS and all the regular channels, but now they're also on HBO Max. So if it might be easier for you to stream, and that's what you're talking about when it comes to Super Bowl, they're still on the regular channels, but have this as an alternative. When they go strictly to Netflix, it'll be a very interesting time. WWE, maybe this is leading the way. Maybe it was the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight
Let me
that
ask you
led the
this:
way.
Do you think obviously the whole thing with AEW and HBO Max is more of a recent thing? I have to assume. I mean, we're not in the room with the negotiations for for Warner Discovery and all that. What is it? Was it Discovery? Time Warner?
Warner Brothers, yeah, and Discovery.
That whole
Yeah.
group. So I wonder, like, because Tony Khan did come out and say recently that it was part of the new negotiations that Rampage was no more at the end of the year of 2024.
Mhm.
I wonder if that was they had to sacrifice Rampage to get HBO Max.
Well, I think they sacrificed Rampage because the ratings just weren't there. And
I don't know.
think
I
Rampage.
don't know how. I don't know how Warner Discovery justifies having AEW on a prime slot. That's prime real estate. 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock on during the week. That's prime real estate, and I can't figure out obviously Tony Khan's got enough money where he can do whatever the heck he wants, but like wouldn't those networks want a better show on there during that time? Because AEW hasn't been that great as of late in recent years.
Well, I will say this much. In the time slots, better shows. Again, the issue is you can put anything on at any time, and there's lots of nights available.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's why AEW gets sometimes preempted if there was like NHL or NBA or stuff like that in the past. But an overall live events, and the USA Network's about to find out, their Monday nights are never going to look the same, right? It is what it is. They're going to have to just deal with the loss. It's just how it is. But the USA Network, no matter whatever they're going to put on USA, if it's not a live event, if it's just another episode of Love Boat or Love Actually or whatever, Love Island or whatever they're going to put on, regardless of what the ratings, it's not going to have the same ratings of a live event, whether it's live wrestling, live racing, live football, whatever. Live is where it is. And that's why Netflix wants Monday Night Raw.
Well,
that's why that's a big deal for them because they want to get in the live business because that's the business.
Well, the live business is obviously is super important. But if you can find yourself like what Paramount Plus has been doing, is they're putting out really good original content. If they put out original shows that aren't live, they're scripted dramas or whatnot. Like those shows have been doing good. Like there's a list of shows that are crushing it on a Paramount Plus, for example. USA, if obviously they're losing that 8 to 10 slot, which used to be 8 to 11 for a long time on USA on Monday nights. Like if they were smart, which I'm not in that room, I don't work for them or anything like that. Wouldn't it make sense to find yourself some new property to invest in?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they're going to try to look for whatever. But yeah, their idea is to get something, whatever one of these major television shows, try to get them on their network, right? And obviously they're tied in with NBC. So NBC, if they can get their hands on some sort of major ER reboot or something, like similar to like what you see with like that Yellowstone, that's a huge show, something like that. If they can get their hands on something like that, that'd be great. I don't necessarily know though. I mean, I guess with the fact that you can watch those, right? I watch shows mostly on a binge stream basis, never really ever live when they air. If anything, I avoid them live because they have commercials, and I can just watch them commercial free later on. Being live is just where it's at, and that's why Netflix is so in on like that Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. That's why they're so in on just having the NFL recently, and that's why they're so in on Monday Night Raw. And Monday Night Raw is going to be very interesting because unlike the other things that were one-offs, this is their first foray into weekly live programming. And when it comes internationally, they're going to have 3 live programs per week. And I don't want to say I get a little scared, but I sometimes you just you ever just get something so good for Christmas and you wonder how they're going to be able to top it. And with WWE, I don't doubt their writers. I know they've got stuff in their sleeve, but this upcoming Monday Night Raw is like, what do they have in the bank for WrestleMania? I guess that's what I'm wondering. I just hope they got something good. I can't think about because
I don't even want to go that far ahead. If they're pulling out all the stops for Netflix January 6th, please tell me you got something good coming up for the Royal Rumble. Like that's a big thing.
Because going over this card, right? We got 4 matches that are announced. Forget all the Rocks and all that stuff returning. Yeah. But like CM Punk, Seth frickin' Rollins, this match, especially with the feud, especially with it being a year build and everything leading up to it, you saw last week on Monday Night Raw, the big war of the words. This could be night 1 WrestleMania main event in my eyes. Just based on all this build. I'm looking forward to this match. I think this is going to be the main event match of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. And yeah, like I said, this is I don't know what you have in store for WrestleMania because this is the kind of match that WrestleManias are made for. This is the kind of match where you have the build, you have the backstory, you have the promos week in and week out that are just better and better as they go on. My question.
Before your question, real quick, CM Punk. I gotta get your quick thoughts on this. I think this was CM Punk's best promo he just did on Monday Night Raw this past week. I think it was his best promo he's had since he's been back in WWE.
Oh, absolutely. I would say I hold it up to the other one he had with Seth Rollins, where he was talking about Seth Rollins thinks about him all the time, and how he doesn't think about him at all. CM Punk speaking of Seth Rollins.
Good, yeah.
That was also a good one. And again, it has to do with this feud. Now, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre had a great feud. But yeah, this has been built up, right? Seth frickin' Rollins, right? The whole is it kayfabe? Is it a shoot? The way that Seth Rollins, with the look that was caught on his face at War Games Survivor Series back when this all started, kind of that whole thing.
They're walking that tight line.
Yes, and I can't wait for this match. I think it's going to be the main event. Another match that I think could definitely be a WrestleMania match. I think it's a WrestleMania match if things don't go the way that you'd want them to go in another route. I'm talking like a Rock and Roman Reigns, but easily could main event like a Royal Rumble for sure either way. And that's Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, the tribal combat match for the Ula Fala, which is the recognition who is the tribal chief of the family, of the bloodline. Who do you think is going to leave with the Ula Fala in this?
I think I feel like it's Roman Reigns, and I think it's because they really want to hit a home run with this debut of Netflix. And I feel like the audience is really craving for Roman Reigns to get the Ula Fala back and restore order as the original tribal chief, the only tribal chief, the one tribal chief. Any OTC you can think of, he is that tribal chief. So yeah, I think it's going to be Roman Reigns easily, and I think it's good. I think it would be a good way to start this new Netflix relationship with a victory like that.
Now, my question is, if Roman Reigns wins, what is next for Solo Sikoa?
That's the $1 million question. I feel like there could be something brewing potentially. They haven't done it yet, so this is just a gut feeling. I feel like there's going to be some sort of issue with him and Jacob Fatu coming down the line. I think the Samoan Werewolf, he's due for a breakout, so to speak, and I think there could be something popping there very soon where like you lost your Ula Fala to Roman Reigns. Why am I worshiping you at this point? Because he does the worship thing every time Solo walks around, Jacob Fatu, the Samoan Werewolf's doing the whole, he's putting his hands up and praying to his tribal chief. If he's not the tribal chief, that tells me, I think Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa are going to be going throwing it down soon, because I think Jacob Fatu is due to be on his own, doing his own thing, which I think it's long overdue.
Another match that I thought we were going to wait till WrestleMania before we were going to finally get it, and that is Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, last woman standing, who's leaving Monday Night Raw as the Women's World Champion on Monday Night Raw.
I think it's going to be. I think they're going to make this another big deal, and I think Rhea Bloody Ripley is winning the belt back. I think you got to start swinging hard for this Netflix Raw, this new partnership. So I think they're going to take some big swings. You're going to see a lot of shaking up, and I see a title change right there. I think Liv drops the belt. Rhea Bloody Ripley's taking that title home.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, because Liv Morgan had a hot end of the year. I mean, she essentially became the face, right, while Rhea Ripley was out, even when Rhea Ripley was back, and she was still the champion.
Rhea's more over. Rhea's more over than Liv.
It's tough, though. I mean, Liv Morgan really made a name for herself this year. It really came out and became a big star. Going back quickly to Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa and the Tribal Combat match, when this is all over with, you say Roman Reigns is going to win. So does that mean The Rock comes out, and then we have more Tribal Combat for the Ula Fala down the line?
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I feel like The Rock and Roman, we've been waiting for this for so long, so I feel like it's due to happen. I think you just teed it up pretty nicely. I feel like just when Roman Reigns gets the Ula Fala, The Rock's music hits, and then we have some sort of stare down or some sort of situation there, and I think that might lead to a future match. Hopefully in April. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what's going to happen at this point. We don't know what what the schedule is going to be, what he's going to be doing. So I wouldn't be surprised if Roman and The Rock, they start doing their thing for Tribal Chief, the Tribal Combat, and obviously for the Ula Fala, which is very sacred in their culture.
I will say that if The Rock does come out and he has some free time over the next few months to do kind of similar to what he did last year, where he's got some time to be in more than just one match and do a couple stories and stuff like that, I could see him costing Solo Sikoa here for the sole purpose of wanting Roman to win so that he can face Roman for the Ula Fala.
It makes
sense.
Having
a feud with Solo, because he's going to cost Solo. He's going to say, I cost you the match because I don't think that you're a worthy WrestleMania competitor. I want to face the best. I don't think you're the best, so I want to make sure you lose so I can face Roman. Obviously, Solo will want to say, you got that all wrong. I am the best, so maybe at like an Elimination Chamber or something like that. It could be Solo versus The Rock. Winner goes on to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
It'll be interesting.
Or maybe like a night one versus night two, Rock versus Solo, night one of WrestleMania, winner faces Roman, night two of WrestleMania kind of thing. Because if he does, because I would see him being on Solo's side because he doesn't like Roman, but costing Solo because he recognizes he wants to face Roman. So that could obviously rub someone the wrong way, and maybe do a little with The Rock and Solo there. Drew McIntyre and Jey Uso, great match, no doubt about that. Now, this is a match that you could throw in on a night like this. You could throw in at the Rumble. That doesn't, I don't. This could be at WrestleMania too, with a good build. But this isn't anything that I think that if it's happening here and then doesn't happen at WrestleMania, then WrestleMania is like these other matches are straight. They could be on the WrestleMania card, absolutely, no doubt. Drew McIntyre, Jey Uso is a pay-per-view quality match for sure. It's very similar to how we just saw, Drew McIntyre, versus Sami Zayn at Saturday Night's Main Event. Great little feud, great little match. But I don't think that, how do we follow this up? I don't think with that.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining that, Drew McIntyre, he's just had a great run at the end of 2024 in the sense of keeping himself important following the CM Punk feud. And I think that he's going to come out on top in this match and try and keep himself relevant, which he's done a great job because, again, after losing to CM Punk, you wonder how you do that. And Drew McIntyre is showing exactly how.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think Drew McIntyre he's in for a big year in 2025. Obviously, we're going to have another big big, I guess, big season, so to speak. The John Cena season is upon us,
Oh, that's
and
right.
I'm looking forward to seeing who he faces. And the most important thing is there was a lot of chatter, which obviously I don't think that it's going to happen. But John Cena's final match, it's not Logan Paul, right? Who's it going to be?
Well, I mean, we have 12 months to figure out where his final match is.
Who would be ideal for you in a dream world? Is there a name that you're like, that's who I want?
No, because I feel like I've never really thought about what will his last match be, and we didn't even know this until Money in the Bank that there was going to be this kind of farewell tour. There are people I want to see him face along the way. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of treat every match like a last match. I don't know necessarily how important his last match will be. In fact, I kind of wonder because I do know we're just coming off the holidays, and one big thing the WWE does, it's kind of one of those bucket list things for WWE fans, is the WWE Madison Square Garden house show the night after Christmas. And I feel like that could be where John Cena's final match is, right? No better way to sell out a house show, right?
Yeah.
The Madison Square Garden house show the night after Christmas. He did say he's going the whole calendar year. So, it's going to be in December sometime. And really, I mean, if it's not there, then what is it, on a Saturday night's main event or a Monday Night Raw? So that's almost as good a place. We saw CM Punk's first match back in the WWE at that MSG house show last year. We saw Bray Wyatt at the MSG house show in the past. So,
Yeah.
I think that could be a huge night. His last show, Madison Square Garden, going out. Who would he go against? Here's who I'll say. Going to go on a limb. An early prediction. So we'll have to see if this holds up 12 months from now. Triple H.
That's a good one. I'll give you one that I think would be really. I think no one's going to complain about it. Randy Orton.
I do see him facing Randy Orton at some point this year, for sure, absolutely. This last match, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they're two icons of the same era.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Batista.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen Batista lately. It would take him a long time to get himself back into muscle mass Dave Batista because Dave's
He's a little skinnier now. Yes.
He looks a little thin these days. He's not the Dave Batista I'm familiar with.
Well, John Cena looks a little, I guess, different than when we remember him in 2005 as well. I mean,
but I did see the buzz cut looks like it's coming back. So
I did see that as well. Tell me, Netflix, Monday Night Raw, what are some big surprises? As essentially, this is the kickoff to WrestleMania season. I know the Royal Rumble traditionally is. We're using this as the kickoff, right? Last year, remember, The Rock returned on the New Year's Day episode of Monday Night Raw. What are some big surprises? Obviously, they've got to turn these matches into big feuds going into WrestleMania season. So what are some things maybe coming out of these matches that you thought would be WrestleMania matches turning into what will be the WrestleMania matches? Any big surprises, any big returns? What do you got?
I mean, do we see any debuts? That's the real question. I don't know if we're gonna have because I know we're seeing a lot of Pentagon. I don't know if he. I feel like he's more of a Royal Rumble debut, if anything. I don't think there's not any real big surprises that I can really come up with at this point because they've already kind of laid it out there because they want you to watch and they want you to know like, oh, John Cena's going to be involved somehow. The Rock's going to be involved. Like, I don't think there's, they might have something up their sleeve, but at this point, I feel like they're putting all their chips in the table and saying, this is who's coming in. We're going to put on a great show and build it for the WrestleMania season. Do you see any particular surprises that I can't think of?
I'm saying Liv Morgan defends against Rhea Ripley.
Okay.
And Becky Lynch comes back.
Oh, that's okay. Becky Lynch. Yeah, I didn't even think about that one.
That's the two people who face off against each other to win this. Win this belt when Rhea Ripley.
You don't think they saved Becky for Royal Rumble though?
I'm not saying that she's not in the Rumble. I'm not saying anything like that. You know what I mean? But I think she comes back. I think we might save Charlotte for the Rumble. But I'm thinking Becky comes back. Now, again, I'm not saying that means that this match is on right away. I'm saying that they might start this feud. Becky might also be in the Rumble. You know what I mean? I might say that I'm going to face you, Liv. Let me get in the Rumble, win the Rumble, and then face you that way. But I could see like that stare down happening. Liv Morgan.
I think that's a good poll. I think that's a good one. I think Charlotte is more likely to return at Rumble versus Becky, because I think Becky, it's not a matter of her health, it's just a matter of when her or WWE wants to pull the trigger on her return. Charlotte's obviously coming back from a really serious knee injury, so like I think they want to make sure she's definitely ready to rock and roll. So I think you're right on. I mean, that's a good poll. I think Becky Lynch, I think that's a good surprise, and I think, for Royal Rumble surprises, I think Charlotte's definitely a good one. And I'll also throw out an early Royal Rumble surprise. I think Joe Hendry is going to debut he's going to show up at Royal Rumble.
Here's a dark horse. I mean, I know obviously the Becky Lynch, that's a surprise, but we'll end this dark horse here. What about Becky Lynch coming back in the CM Punk Seth Rollins match and kicking CM Punk right in the balls? And,
that would be nice. That'd be cool.
And hey, maybe I've heard some rumblings and rumors of, because I mean, not like it's really going to happen, but the potential, because it can happen. Why not? AJ and CM Punk versus Seth and Becky, a tag team match, maybe at Elimination Chamber, something like that. Want to be against it, right?
I'm down.
Absolutely. All I hope is that I know this week is going to be a little bit different because they sold out the whole arena, so they're going for that whole look. I get you. But now that, just in general, it's my biggest gripe of all time. Let's stop trying to scale back for the sake of trying to save money, right? If we're really going to Netflix and we're going to see things like we've quote unquote never seen before, yeah, let's get some pyro back in there. Like, we don't even have to do anything like we've never seen before. Can we just see things like we had seen before, yes, right? Just a little bit like that. I know this week, right, it's going to be all about maximizing the crowd, but when we're back in, Toledo, Ohio for Monday Night Raw, in a couple months, and you're only getting 10,000 people in a 10,000 seat arena, yeah, we can have a regular looking stage or a cool looking stage or whatever. We just don't have to have the house show set every single week, right, if this is what we're trying to do. But all important is that, we see, because, Triple H has been saying this forever and ever. And, here's your chance to shine, buddy. It's Netflix on Raw. This is what you've been waiting about a year for since they made the announcement. Can't wait to see it this upcoming Monday from the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles.